Okay. Hello, everyone. Okay. Hello. All right. Welcome to our candidates and to everyone who's tuning in for our West Virginia House of Delegates Forum. I'm Ashley Vickers. I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Greenbrier Chamber of Commerce, and I'll be your moderator for tonight's event, which is sponsored by the Greater Greenbrier Chamber of Commerce. We are a nonpartisan organization whose goal is to let the public meet our candidates for office and learn more about what each of them stands for without endorsing a candidate. I would like to add that our Meet the Candidates Forum are not co-sponsored by either political party. We understand that our broadcast partner, News Talk 97.3, who sells sponsorships for programming, but the forums are solely produced by the Greater Greenbrier Chamber of Commerce. Our timekeeper for tonight is Ethan Sir. Each candidate will be allotted 2 minutes for their intros. We will then alternate questions between candidates and allow 1.5 minutes for each answer. Finally, each candidate will be given 2 minutes to conclude. Ethan will give you a 15-second warning, and so it will sound like this. And then when it's time's up, you will hear this. So because we have 4 folks tonight and we are up against the gubernatorial debate on Radio Greenbrier, this will end promptly on the radio at 7 p.m., but we'll try and wrap up by 7 on YouTube. Tonight we have Democratic candidates Cindy Lavender Bowe and Jeff Campbell, and Republican candidates Todd Longenecker, and Barry Bruce. So Ethan is going to do the coin flip. Heads is Republicans, tails is Democrat. So Ethan's going to flip the coin, and it is heads. So the Republican candidates will get the first question. So you each get a chance to answer, and then we'll flip over to the other side. So, and Mr. Bruce and Mr. Longenecker, can you please tell me how to pronounce your name correctly so I'm saying it the right way? Longenecker.
Longenecker.
Okay. I've got a really bad maiden name, so I can only imagine. So I apologize for messing that up.
It took me till 10th grade to learn how to spell it. No worries.
All right. So y'all can decide who would like to take the question first. Once again, we'll start with the Republican candidates. Huh?
It's not question, is it?
I can't hear you.
Barry, are you going first, sir?
Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot this yesterday, and I'm going to not forget it today. So opening statements for the Republican Party. Either of y'all can start first.
Go ahead, Todd.
Interest.
Okay, good evening. I'm Todd Longenecker. I'm a native of Greenbrier County and the town of Ronsford, West Virginia. I'm a 30-year multiple deployed combat veteran, and I'm a retired Army officer. I have 2 undergraduate degrees in the sciences, a master's degree in strategic leadership, and I am a graduate of the United States Army Command and General Staff College. I have over 30 years of management and leadership experience, as well as real-world business experience. More important than my leadership experience, though, is the fact that I am a constitutionally conservative Republican. What this means to you guys is that I have a warrior passion for conserving the founding principles embodied in the preamble of our Constitution, including defending your personal family earnings from tax and spend liberals. I fully support President Trump's agenda designed to make us less susceptible to the creeping effect of unconstitutional socialism in our courts, our schools, and our legislative process. At some point tonight, I hope to hear Delegates Bowe and Campbell tell us who they support for the President of the United States and why. I'm also 100% pro-life, pro-gun, pro-due process, pro-law enforcement, and pro-business. I detest and denounce all ethnic superiority groups and domestic terrorist groups, regardless of their skin color. This includes neo-Nazis, the KKK, BLM, the Black Panthers, and Antifa. At some point tonight, I hope to know if Delegates Bowe and Campbell will join me in denouncing these divisive hate groups. I also want to take this time to challenge everyone listening tonight. As you listen closely to each candidate's answers, I want you to ask yourself the following questions. Which of the two candidates offer true and sincere out-of-the-box solutions? And which two candidates tonight offer up only lip service and virtue signaling? I want you to ask yourselves, which candidates do you trust the most to incentivize businesses and develop and defend your freedoms and protect your personal earnings and your rights?
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Bruce.
I want to thank the chamber and the participants for this forum and the venue to get to speak to the citizens of this beautiful district. And I'm proud to call home. My wife Jane and I have been blessed for the past 30 years to live here and raise a family in Greenbrier County. But I'm deeply concerned by the direction our current incumbent Democrat delegates are taking our district. I decided to run for the House because I truly believe our future depends on fearless leadership. These are perilous times. Greenbrier County has hemorrhaged population and good paying jobs. Our constitutional rights and West Virginia values, as well as our whole form of government, are under attack. Our law enforcement is being abandoned. And our current president, Donald Trump, is the only person standing in the way of our country being cast aside in the dark. Joe Biden has openly stated that he would shut down every coal-fired power plant in the United States. Do you know how much revenue and how many jobs West Virginia would lose if he were elected? And the current Greenbrier County delegates are pledged by party to support him. A vote for Biden is a vote against West Virginia. An example of the dangerous positions of our current Democratic delegates in this race, Delegates Campbell and Bowe, joined the far left of the Democratic Party by opposing the West Virginia Critical Infrastructure Protection Act, which defended private property rights. In the year of riots and chaos in the city, Delegates Campbell and Bowe voted to allow radicals to come in from all over the nation, potentially wreak havoc on West Virginia's critical infrastructure. Thankfully, the Republican West Virginia-led legislature passed that bill without the help of either of these delegates. This aligns directly with the National Democratic Party and is simply outrageous. District 42 deserves better. I'm running as a conservative who believes in the individual worth of all citizens, and I intend to bring protective leadership, proactive leadership to the table, in direct contrast to the current delegation. I'm excited to discuss my platform tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. All right, Cindy, ladies first.
Thanks, Ashley. I was going to ask if we wanted to go age before beauty, since Jeff's got about, I think, 11 months on me. But I'll gladly go first. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Delegate Cindy Lavender Bowe, representing the 42nd District, and it has been my honor and privilege to serve you for these last 2 years. At the People's House, that's yours and mine, I've cried with my colleagues as we've learned stories from our constituents. Hearing the stories of West Virginians who have lost jobs, family members to opioids, and children to foster care. It is these experiences that motivate me to want to continue to serve and champion every West Virginian in this state. As the founding chair of the West Virginia House Democratic Women's Caucus, I'm proud to serve with a small but mighty group of women, working together to amplify the voices of women and children in this state. Because we know that the greatest return on investment is when you invest in women and children. When women earn better pay, they can better care for their families. And when women do better, their children do better. I also want to take a moment to let you know that your representatives, your current delegation, are working diligently across the aisle to take care of West Virginians. Critics would like you to believe that we are tirelessly at each other's throats in Charleston. And that's a convenient picture to paint when one seeks to benefit from division. But it's simply not true. I'm proud to say that there are many bipartisan victories, moments when we put our political differences aside and we've come together for the good of West Virginia. You sent me to Charleston to put West Virginians, children's, small businesses, our seniors and workers first, and that's what I did. Our state has reached a critical moment. The decisions we make now, the leaders that we elect at every level, especially the local and state level, are more important now than ever. We need smart leaders who know how to collaborate, leaders who will work across the aisle, leaders with integrity and accountability.
All right, Cindy, I'm sorry that is your time.
It's okay.
And Jeff Campbell, your opening statements, please. Please unmute yourself, Jeff.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event and the opportunity to discuss the issues. And I welcome everyone who's watching and listening tonight. I'm Jeff Campbell, and for the past 3 years, I've been honored to serve as one of your delegates in the 42nd District counties of Greenbrier, Monroe, and Summers. I was appointed to fill Stephen Baldwin's unexpired term in October of 2017 and elected to a full 2-year term in November of 2018. I am a lifelong resident of the Greenbrier Valley and attended White Sulphur Elementary and Junior High and graduated from Greenbrier East High School in 1987. I have 2 degrees from Concord University in Education and Communications, and I was honored as Concord's 20 Greenbrier County Schools for over 20 years. And for the last 12 years, I've been a social studies teacher at Eastern Greenbrier Middle School. Since 1985, I've worked for Radio Greenbrier in sales and broadcasting Greenbrier East Spartan football and basketball games. During my time in the House of Delegates, I have served on the committees on education, agriculture and natural resources, Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security, and fire departments and emergency medical services. I requested these committee assignments because of their importance to our district and our state. I've worked to support our public schools, police officers, military veterans, seniors, hospitals, libraries, parks, the arts, private property rights, and our hardworking West Virginia families. Looking ahead, we must continue on infrastructure projects, finally make broadband a priority, increase access to treatment to fight the opioid epidemic, and recruit, retain, and support first responders. I'm Jeff Campbell, and I'm asking for your vote to continue to be your voice in Charleston. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Republicans get the first question this evening. So, gentlemen, you can choose who answers this question first. Will each of you please detail your involvement in bettering the community in the past 5 years? Mr. Bruce, you want to take that?
Yes, I certainly will. I've been involved in my church ministry fully. I've been involved in Manual Community Church in the outreach to that church, to the community. I've been involved in the legal community, helping do pro bono work. I've been involved in other administrative duties, but most of all around my church and building the community and serving others through that. In the past, I've been involved in the United Way, the Chamber of Commerce, and which I've been endorsed by the Chamber of Commerce.
The state one, right?
Yes, state Chamber of Commerce, yes. And I've been politically active in supporting candidates. And if there's something I think needs to be addressed in the community, I volunteered during the flood time. I gave both time and energy and money to help the flood victims. So I consider myself a community activist, but also a faith-based person.
Thank you. And Mr. Longacre, you're up next.
Okay, in the past 5 years, which is about the amount of time that I've been back home, just retired out of the United States Army in 2015. I came home, and less than a year later, we got hit with the big flood of 2016. I personally delivered probably close to 2 tons of cleaning supplies throughout Greenbrier County with a little loose-knit organization that I put together. We went out house to house, knocked on doors, helped people. I physically and personally myself crawled into homes, pulled out carpet, pulled out ruined furniture, cleaned out people's houses to try to get these folks back on their feet. Above and beyond that, the West Virginia National Guard had sent a team of combat medics down here to Greenbrier County to help give out tetanus shots for all the folks like myself who were actually in the field working and cleaning out people's homes and getting muddy. Those combat medics did not have a place to sleep. So I took about 16 of them into my home on cots. My house for about 2 weeks was full of stuff, but also talked to the folks in Monroe County about Pond Cove Lake State Park and see how their park ranger did turning that park around and turning a net profit for the first time in that park's history.
Thank you. Okay, I'll refresh the question for our Democratic candidates. Will you each please detail your involvement in bettering the community in the past 5 years? Jeff, do you want to go first? And Cindy,
Sure, I can get, sure, absolutely, I'll go first. Well, for the past 5 years and plus 15 beyond that, I've been a public school teacher here in Greenbrier County. I've also served in the state legislature for the past 3 years. And one of the bills my first year in 2018, I'm proud to be a part of, was helping to pass Senate Bill 500. That gave White Sulphur Springs access to the $1 million that it had basically made from the sale of the airport to the Greenbrier back in 1985. The city had not been able to spend any of that money. It took legislative action. They were only able to spend the interest on that money from that 1985 sale. And I was a part of helping get that bill passed through the House of Delegates so White Sulphur Springs would have access to that $1 million. Also, recently here during the pandemic, I've been able to help a lot of constituents be able to get help with their issues with Workforce West Virginia and get to unemployment. Probably 25 or so that I've helped get through that. So those are some things that I'm proud of from a community standpoint just here in the last few years.
thank you, Jeff. Cindy?
Thank you for the question, Ashley. My background has been filled with service. So like Jeff, it's gone back for 20 years. I was a founding member of the Greenbrier Valley Greater Recovery Flood Committee. I helped to set that organization up, and I was the coordinator for all supplies and distribution that were initially coming into the county. I did that in affiliation with my church, St. James Episcopal in Lewisburg, where I've served as the senior warden. I have a background as the executive director of the United Way. And while I was there, food insecurity became my passion. So I revived funding for the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, which brought federal funding much needed back into the county for the many food banks that we have serving hundreds of people each month. I've also served on the Boy Scouts Troop 70 committee, advising that group and helping to select and approve Eagle Scout projects. I am a former member of the Greenbrier Valley Foundation Board, as well as the Greenbrier Episcopal School Board, and a past member of the Greenbrier Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau. I'm the founding chair of the Lewisburg Chocolate Festival, which is one of the largest fundraisers that exists in this county and has benefited many organizations. And I'm also a founding member of the committee that began the Lewisburg Literary Festival. And it's been my honor and privilege.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, we'll swing it back to the Republican side. How will you support tourism in this region? Will you pledge to support continued and increased funding for the West Virginia Tourism Office to market West Virginia as a destination?
Ashley, can I ask you a question? Is the whole debate going to go with the Republicans getting the first question, answering the question?
I can switch it up however you guys are comfortable.
I think it would
That's how
be.
we did it yesterday. I'm happy to I'll let Jeff or Cindy take that one. It doesn't matter.
If we could switch and let a new question come and give each side a chance, that would be wonderful.
Perfect. We can do that. Okay, Cindy or Jeff, I can repeat that question if you'd like me to.
I'm happy to take that question, Ashley.
Go ahead.
As I mentioned a minute ago, I've served on the Greenbrier Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau marketing advisory team. I've written and applied for the grant funding for multiple organizations in the community, and we saw that money basically dry up. So I've seen the struggle that our small businesses and our nonprofits and our organizations have faced since that funding has diminished. And I'm very supportive of tourism and any kind of legislation that comes across my desk that I see will return the importance of funding tourism. And our biggest industry in this state should be tourism. There's no place more beautiful. There's no place more fun. We are nature's playground, and we should be selling that not just throughout the country, but internationally. We need to dream big and bring people here. And I'm honored to live in the Greenbrier Valley, which is a place, I'm a native West Virginian, but 20 years ago, I chose to move here because it was a place that I grew up and experienced recreational activities, hunting and fishing and camping. And that's why we moved here. So I'm most definitely 100% behind increasing tourism funding.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell,
Well,
do you want me to repeat the question for you?
no, you don't have. If you want to, go ahead. Sure.
Sure. How will you support tourism in this region? Will you pledge to support continued and increased funding for the West Virginia Tourism Office to market West Virginia as a destination?
The answer is yes, and I have done that here in the past 3 years. Tourism in this state, it produces, for every dollar spent on tourism, it produces $8 in return. So there's an 8-to-1 yield on that. I've also tried on 2 separate occasions to support the film tax credit that helps benefit the state of West Virginia, but that has been shot down by the majority. Locally here, we've got Greenbrier Valley Theater, we've got Carnegie Hall, the Greenbrier River Trail, and so many more destinations for our area in terms of tourism. In terms of the Greenbrier Valley Theater, I received a Governor's Arts Award for my support of arts and education back on March the 4th. So I am a strong supporter of tourism here in West Virginia, and my voting record proves that.
Thank you, Jeff. Which Republican would like to take this question? I'm happy to repeat it if you'd like.
I'll take that question. Tourism. I could say from my own personal perspective and seeing what's going on up to the pandemic, I thought the tourism industry was really growing in this area. And I had clients and people I knew in the Western end that had a campground started and it was going full blast and everything looked good. And I just want to say God's blessed us with such a beautiful area. And a gentleman was in my office today and he's moving here from up in Maryland area. And he chose this area. He came down and spent 3 days driving around and picked the house out in the mountains, and he just loves it. And they came here. We have so much to offer, but we got to expand. It's just not Lewisburg, it's the whole county. And I think we got to look at the Meadow River Valley Trail and get it done and open up that area for expansion. But we need to get the infrastructure. We need to get internet throughout this county to help expand. People come in and they don't have the service coming in if they're camping or remote camping or remote telephone service. You can't get it. So we got to expand on, if you want to have good people coming in and using this area, you got to have good internet services. That will help the tourism, I think, greatly.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce.
Thank you for that question, Ashley. I'm going to ask you, if you can, in the future, ring the bell closer to your mic.
Yeah, we can do that. Not a problem.
It's a little hard to hear that bell.
We'll adjust. Thank you.
So I agree with Cindy that we need to be bold and we need to dream big dreams when it comes to tourism. I think I'm the only one on this platform right here that's actually worked full time in that industry. I actually have been a state park. I have worked with the Division of State Parks and the Natural Resources of West Virginia. I have managed state parks. I have managed wildlife management areas. Now, I can tell you what I did over in Monroe County, what we were able to accomplish. Not only were we able to reach out, specifically me reaching out and securing a $10,000 grant that kind of jump-started a lot of the things we put back into Mon Cove Lake State Park, bringing electricity into that lower campground for the first time ever, building a gift shop that we could actually turn some revenue to reinvest back into the park, putting a stage, which is still yet to be fully completed. But I hope, my vision was to see that area of our district become a place where people can come and do concerts during the summer. And got a lot of other ideas and big dreams like Cindy has spoke about.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, Mr. Bruce brought up the Meadow River Valley, so let's go into a question with that. Do we want to stay with the Republicans on this and then switch it back to the Democrats? Is that how you prefer? Okay.
Yeah.
The Meadow River Valley has been crippled by job loss and increasing homeless population since the 2016 flood. What plans, if any, do you have to revitalize this area and restore hope for the citizens that are living there?
Well, I'll go ahead and take that.
Okay.
The first thing I want to do, did you want to do it, Todd?
Go ahead. Your time's already started.
Okay. First,
Okay, starting now. Go ahead, Mr. Bruce.
Okay, first thing I want to do is we have to address the drug problem right now. The drug problem in right now in the western end is horrendous. Personally, being there and walking the streets and knocking on doors and talking to the citizens, it's just a problem we have to address, and we can only do that. I want to see a summit formed of everybody involved in this county to address that problem. They don't have the resources out there to handle that problem. So we need to have a summit. We need to get the county commission involved. We need to get the mayors, the police departments, the sheriff's department, the state police, and we got it. My goal would be right away, not wait until this election, but right away, get moving to correct that problem. Because they're actually people, drug users are being dropped off there and ported to the western end. But you cannot address that, improve a situation until you can rid yourself of that disease or that situation. And we have to address it as a county. It's not the east end, it's not the west end. We're in this together to the end. And if we're not, it's not going to work. So I'm calling on everybody to go out there. There can be a lot done. The trail needs to be done, and jobs need to be brought in there, and we can build that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Do you want me to repeat the question, Todd?
No, I got you. Thanks, Athlete. So I've given a lot of thought to the western end. I've done a lot of hunting out there over the years, and I love it. It's a beautiful place. Meadow River Valley it has been ignored. And I will tell you this, we have an opportunity to actually increase tourism to that area, not only with this river trail or this rails to trail thing, but if we could look at ways of cutting spending in other agencies that is purely wasteful stuff, redirecting that money into reclaiming some of that land or purchasing some of that land out there to make our own southeastern West Virginia version of the Hatfield and McCoy's Trail. That would be just one thing that we can do to create some economic spinoff in that area. We watched the critics talking about how bad the Hatfield and McCoy Trail would be down in the southwestern part of the state, but it has created opportunities for campgrounds, for convenience stores, for grocery stores, and has developed more restaurants down there for people. I think that's something we can try to replicate here. That's just one way we can do it. One thing I do fear, though, I do love the outdoors, and I am an outdoorsman, and I have formerly managed natural resources and outdoorsy type stuff. My big fear is when we look at the national forest, for example, that a lot of it comes down in Greenbrier County. There's a movement afoot by the left, by liberals who want to try to redesignate every national forest.
Mr. Todd, your time is up.
I didn't hear the bell again. I can't hear.
I'm sorry. We'll bring it a little bit louder. I apologize for that. I apologize. Thank you. Cindy and Jeff, do you want me to repeat the question? Can we bring that just a little bit louder next time? Thank you, Ethan. I'll repeat the question. The Meadow River Valley has been crippled by job loss and increasing homeless population since the 2016 flood. What plans, if any, do you have to revitalize this area and restore hope for the citizens that are living there? Jeff, Cindy, which one?
You want me to go?
Go ahead.
Up to you.
I'm really excited, and this has already been mentioned. I'm very excited about the possibilities attached to the development of the Meadow River Valley Trail. I think, again, tourism, taking advantage of this beautiful landscape that we have is certainly a great way to start. But on a personal level, my husband and I have, a couple of years ago, we started a company that's patented technology, and we are working in the Western End. And if and when the funding is secured for this climate shelter that we've been developing, we have every intention on locating that company there. And I mention that because I believe that the solutions don't always come from government. They don't always come from legislatures. They come from citizens. They come from people believing in one another, thinking outside of the box, being creative, and trying to give folks a chance. You know, my husband always says, give me a coal miner or a farmer any day when he's looking for someone to hire in our small business where we employ 15 people. And our most recent hire, we made a conscious effort to reach out to folks on the Western End who were unemployed. And we were very happy to hire someone from, who had recently lost their job. So, and I'm finished?
No, you had 15, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. So just to say, just trying to think outside the box, and that to remember that it's not always in the hands of government. Sometimes we have to take it upon ourselves to figure out how to help our communities and bring them back.
Thank you, Cindy. Jeff? Wait, are we done here? Hang on a second. Are we on to our next question? I'm sorry, I lost track there. Were you able to hear the chime okay? Okay. Are we on to our next one, Ethan? I think so. All right, so this question, are we staying with the Democrats on this one? Did everybody get a chance to answer that? I want to make sure. Do you want to answer, Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Please repeat the question, though.
I will. Let me get back to it. Sorry, got ahead of myself. Okay, the Meadow River Valley has been crippled by job loss and increasing homeless population since the 2016 flood. What plans, if any, do you have to revitalize that area and restore hope for the citizens that are living there?
Actually, this started before the 2016 flood. It actually started after 1988 when the state was completed from Sam Black all. The Meadow River Valley is very important. We have an opportunity to promote that area. Midland Trail runs on Route 60 all the way, from White Sulphur Springs into Huntington. And it used to be the way when I was growing up in White Sulphur Springs, getting to Charleston was a commitment. It used to take 3 hours to get to Charleston. Now you can make it probably in about an hour and 45 minutes if you're lucky. But that used to be the road for us to get to Charleston. And when you talk about traveling on Route 60, through the Meadow River Valley in the western end of Greenbrier County, you're talking about getting to destination places involving tourism like Babcock State Park, Hawks Nest State Park. They're very close there. Former Rainelle Mayor Andy Pendleton did a great job over there helping to bounce back from the flood. And also her brainchild was this Rainelle Visitor Center there in downtown. They also have the rail trails we've mentioned. The Rainelle City Pool is something that should draw people to the western end of Greenbrier County. But one thing also we have to do, we have to improve the roads on Route 60 and Route 20 because, those roads are not in the best shape in the world. Obviously, weather is a consideration to some of those issues as well. But those, this didn't start in 2016. I think it really began. The first domino started, back during the interstate expansion in 1988.
Thank you, Jeff. Sorry to cut you off there. All right, so let's see. Our next question. we're starting with? Cindy, is this going to be, are we going back with the Democrats on here? Yeah, I think so. Okay, Cindy or Jeff? Arts organizations across the state have been hit particularly hard by COVID-19. As a leader in the state that relies heavily on cultural tourism, what specific legislation efforts do you have to support these institutions? I can read that again. As organizations across the state have been particularly hit hard by COVID-19 circumstances, as a leader in the state that relies heavily on cultural tourism, what specific legislative efforts would you advance to support these institutions?
I can take this one
Go
first.
ahead, Jeff.
Okay. One thing I think, the governor has $1.25 billion in CARES Act money that could be used to help save some of these institutions like that. I know that I was working with Kelly Tuckwiller from the State Fair back over this past spring about trying to get some of that funding, because State Fair obviously having to cancel was in dire straits in terms of their long-term future. So, I mean, there's money there through the CARES Act if the governor would release some of those funds to some of those opportunities.
Cindy?
Yeah, just to echo what Delegate Campbell just said, it's regretful that we have not been called back into session. I mean, the legislature has the responsibility of approving spending, and we haven't been there to do that. We haven't even been able to have conversations about how the CARES Act funding should be spent. And that's a big problem. And I know had we been there, that Jeff and I would have diligently been working to get some of that money to these very specific arts organizations that we have in our area. Going forward, we need to make sure that we work to restore funding in the budget and support any funding that is there for these iconic cultural arts organizations that we are so privileged to have here in the Greenbrier Valley.
Okay, gentlemen, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I think we got it. I'll go ahead
Okay.
and start first on this one, since my friend Barry there started first on the last one. But as far as the arts are concerned, I am 100% artsy. Sometimes I can even draw stick figures if I try real hard. But I will tell you this, I am in a band, and my band, I'm in a local band. I'm a drummer here in the local band called Stockyard Parade. Hopefully I'm okay to put a plug out for them since we're poor right now. We have lost probably $15,000 in revenue from playing fairs and festivals and private parties and things like that because of this little virus. And I will tell you this, as someone who appreciates, and not only appreciates, but makes a little bit of supplemental income on the side from the arts, I would propose legislation to actually give anybody who, not just the arts, but anybody who has a hobby side job, whether it's playing in a band to supplement their moderate income or to help with bringing additional family revenue in. I would love to actually get a bill out there that gives a tax incentive or a tax break up to the first $25,000 for anybody who hobby farms, who hobby musicians, who hobby anything, because they're doing it. They're providing a service of recreation and the arts for people. And not only that, but it's bringing revenue into their house. It's time to get out of their wallets and start creating opportunities for them to keep more of their income.
Thank you. Mr. Bruce, do you want me to repeat the question or you got it?
No, I got it. It's a difficult question to me because the pandemic has just hurt our state so much. Restaurants, the fairs and festivals have been devastated by it. My heart goes out to them, and the solution of getting money to them, to everyone equally, is just difficult. But I think the governor has made some attempts to get money and given money to some of the fairs and festivals like the Ronsford and Alderson, and made some contributions to offset that through the state funding, the CARES Act, I would presume. But I think it's something that has to be looked at, and it has to be looked at in the total package of things. I think we can't just, I understand the need, but we can just segment it into this because it's too broad. We got to look at the big picture, look at it all. So to come in and say, what can you do for this entity? Well, you can't pick that entity out and leave everybody else out of the picture. That's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll stick with the Republicans on this. What is your stance on the Fairness Act? How do you plan on promoting equality and inclusion for all people within the district, no matter their race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation?
Go ahead, Barry.
Well, I plan on following the law. Encourage everybody to follow the law. That's the law, and that's what we do. You implement it the way we have every other statute that we implement on an equal and unbiased manner. It's just part of what we are. So I don't see the dilemma. I guess that I just don't see a dilemma in it. We as Americans will do it. No one has the right to be prejudiced. And if you're prejudiced, then you shouldn't hold office. And
Amen.
That's where I am. So it's pretty simple to me. Maybe more complex to other people, but it's not to me.
Okay, I want to caveat on what Barry said with simply this. Look, I got paid to be a soldier for 30 years. We didn't ask what color you were, what gender you were, what sexual orientation you were. We fought and would potentially, possibly give our lives so that that Bill of Rights applied to you, no matter all this other craziness. I don't understand the mindset that the left has where they somehow it's okay to single out one group for benefits and preferential treatment while alienating the other group. And that is the most divisive mindset that is so prolific in society today, and it's got to stop. So if we simply get back, look, Lady Liberty wears a blindfold for a reason. Justice should be blind. It doesn't care if you have a penis or not, if you have white skin or not. What we got to do is stick to the Bill of Rights and enforce the law. I see Barry laughing. I guess I shouldn't have used that acronym there earlier. But let me tell you what, if we just stick to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the preamble of that Constitution, we wouldn't even have this debate. It's crazy that we're even talking about it, but one party is always bringing it out, pushing it on us. Look, I've been to real countries where real systemic racism occurs. This is not it, folks. This is not it. So start looking at people equal. We need equal justice for everybody, and a lot of these problems would go away.
Thank you, sir. Jeff and Cindy, shall I repeat the question for y'all, or are you good?
Sure.
I'm happy to repeat it.
Yes.
What is your stance on the Fairness Act? How do you plan on promoting equality, inclusion for all people within the district, no matter their race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation?
I'll go first on this. There have been efforts made the last couple of years to run the Fairness Act, but it hasn't run, and it likely will not run. In terms of jobs and housing, discrimination, and things like that shouldn't happen, regardless of who you are, what color skin you have, or who you choose to love. And agree with what Barry said a moment ago. You got to follow the law. It's that simple.
Cindy?
Sorry, I lost my mute button.
Okay.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly support the Fairness Act. I'm a sponsor of that act. And the fact of the matter is that we make the laws, not just follow them. And I think that freedom from discrimination is the right of all people. And we should strive to see that everyone in our communities is treated with fairness and equality. You shouldn't be able to be fired from your job or evicted from your home for any reason based on who you love or your gender identity. As a person of faith, I find no basis from within my faith to condemn or deny the rights of any person based on sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. Rather, my faith compels me to embrace the full inclusion of all people. When Jesus was asked what was the most important commandment, he said, love thy neighbor as thyself. And I think that if we do that in our communities And I think that if we pass this law at the state level, we can ensure that people have the right to equality when it comes to their jobs and where they live.
Thank you, Cindy. All right, and we'll keep it here with y'all. What is your position on cannabis legalization, including homegrown option for medical cannabis card holders and expungement for nonviolent cannabis offenders? I can repeat that if you wish, if you wish. Jeff or Cindy?
Repeat it, please.
Yeah. What is your position on cannabis legalization, including homegrown option for medical cannabis card holders and expungement for nonviolent cannabis offenders?
I'll take it first. The first thing I think we have to do is make sure that we, get our medical cannabis legislation through and established. And I think once that happens, I think maybe people will take a look at it a little bit differently. I know in other states it has full legalizations, and some of those states have benefited from it. Of course, there's, always the opposite view of that. It's a gateway drug, but I think once we get the medical cannabis situation all set up and going here in West Virginia, that I think that's going to be the first step to anything beyond that. In terms of the homegrown, if you have the license, I don't see any issues with that personally.
Cindy? Cindy?
Unmute.
Sorry.
There you go.
To speak first about medical cannabis, I think it's important that we fix the legislation that we've already passed. We need immediate legalization of medical cannabis. We need the barriers removed. This program needs to be happening now, not a year from now. And I think that we need to be smart and writing effective legislation that allows doctors to prescribe it and allows the patients to get the relief that they deserve. And I don't think that we need help from Big Pharma. We don't need to help them make any more money. And I believe that our legislation should include the ability for medical patients to have homegrown flower for their own prescription. As far as adult use cannabis, I am 100% in favor of that. As Jeff said, we need to get the medical cannabis program functioning and running well before we address that. But we've seen lots of information from states where this is happening, like Colorado, and we've seen the amounts of money that they've been able to raise for their communities and schools and what they've done for tourism in those places. I think that this is something with hemp also that could change the economic course of our state. If we just think outside the box and don't wait too long and be last on the train.
Thank you, Cindy. Gentlemen, would you like me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
Todd, you want me to go?
Go ahead, Barry.
Okay. Well, first of all, I use CBD oil. It actually makes my life a lot easier. I know it works. So to that degree, I certainly support it. I really have a problem with homegrown. I don't see how you regulate it. I don't know how. I really hope you could, but I have not seen anything on the table how it's regulated just to the home use. And if it comes out, if something comes up that it can be, the accountability there is for it, I'd be all for it. But if there's not the accountability of how it's measured and how it's accounted for strictly, it's like having a still in your house. I mean, you can't have still in your house. Make alcohol, it's illegal. So, I mean, how can you differentiate between alcohol and marijuana? And I don't see how you can. And alcohol is pretty well regulated. And I think there shouldn't be that much difference. I just want to be sure if it's regulated, I'm for it. If it's not, I'm not. That's where I stand on it.
Thank you.
Okay, to Jeff's point that there is always a counter argument, and he lists only one counter argument, and that was the gateway drug argument. He conveniently left out a whole bunch of more arguments, and they can easily be found if you just one quick trip to the CDC website. I know liberals, and I'm saying the word liberal as in folks who disagree with the conservative values. So, I mean, I don't know how you feel about me saying that, but it is what it is. Most liberals argue that that legalizing drugs for recreational purpose is going to solve all of West Virginia's problems. I mean, it's a cure-all for everything. The facts are, if you look at the state of Colorado, they have seen an increase of 145% in DUIs and cannabis or pot-related DUIs. They've seen a huge increase in fatalities where the victim had pot in their systems. There's a whole slew of it. Now, for medical stuff, I'm 100% for it. As far as the recreational drugs, look, I fought for everyone's freedom to shoot up, snort up, inject, do whatever you want, but not at taxpayers' expense. And I'd like to see a waiver sign that says if I want to do drugs, I'm not going to ask my neighbor to fund my medical expenses via taxation. So I'd be for it.
Okay, thank you. All right, and we'll stick with the Republicans with this next question. What can you do better to support local businesses during a pandemic?
I'll go first since Barry took the last one. So the one thing we can do to support local businesses is just, again, there's always those stubborn Bill of Rights. How about leave them alone and let the business owner decide whether or not they want to assume the risk of opening their business or not? Let the business owners decide how they're going to protect their clients and their customers. For an individual in a tie somewhere or a group of individuals to infringe upon our constitutional rights to tell us what we can and cannot do, especially in a pandemic, having a 99.4 survivability rate if you do get infected, I think it's ludicrous to shut down businesses because, as President Trump said, the lockdown is probably far worse off than the pandemic itself. So let businesses decide what they want to do, and then it falls back on the law. If it can be proven that someone got sick at your business because, God forbid, you decided to engage in your livelihood of putting food on your table and paying your employees, then you should be held accountable. It's about individual responsibility and accountability. But to shut down society because of this is nuts.
Thank you. Mr. Bruce, what can you do to better support local businesses during the pandemic?
Well, I think we can do everything to go support them by ordering their food out, by going to the restaurants when it's open, outside. I think we need to make an effort to do that. And but I'm like Todd. I think some of the restrictions are too much, but because restaurants have been hurting really bad in our county and in this district, and I see it. I see it because they can't get staff to work, and they can't get customers to come in. But it is growing. But I would give you an example of we had a rally in the Valley on Sunday. 350 people came. It was well organized. We took temperatures. People had masks on. People social distancing, and it was a great event. And if you wanted to see something, people didn't want to leave. I was tired, but people stayed forever because they wanted to be together. And that's in our genes. That's in our part of us being Americans, and especially in Greenbrier County. So I think we got to use good judgment, but we got to open up. And I think we wear masks and we do some distance and do the best job we can, but we got to open up to help our businesses and support them by, I think my wife really likes it because we eat out a lot. We order out a lot, but I really believe we got to open up and be cautious, but open up.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Cindy or Jeff, who would like to take this? What can you do to better support local businesses during the pandemic?
I'll go first, Cindy. Okay. I think businesses should be able to decide what works best for them as long as they follow the guidelines. As neighbors, we should support our local businesses. Just here recently, within a month here, we've got Ace Hardware opening up in White Sulphur Springs. We've got Hog Wild Barbecue opening up to a permanent location in Fairleigh. During a pandemic, here are two businesses that are opening up right here in our area. I think we need to, not take as many trips to Beckley and to Roanoke to shop, find as many things as we can locally here, and try not to, do as much online stuff out of town. I mean, let's try to support our local businesses the best way we can, because this is such a tough time for everyone right now, and the local businesses need our help.
Cindy?
Thanks, Ashley. The last several months since we returned from session and came home to this pandemic, we have been working with our local businesses. We've been helping them to navigate unemployment issues and the ever-changing regulations for virus containment, and also access to the funding that was available. Again, I do think that there's still a lot more that could have been done with the CARES Act funding that came down from the federal government, and that we were not able to come together as a legislative body and to help to discuss and decide how and when that money was spent. And again, on a personal level, we have to remember our small businesses. They're our neighbors, and we have to make the efforts that we can to support them. And I know that during the pandemic, we ordered a lot of takeout. We have a lot of restaurants that we really enjoy, and we didn't want to see them disappear. So we made sure that we made an effort to support them during this time. I think we are, we're not fully open, but the businesses are pretty open. And I think that they now are more comfortable with the regulations, and they're navigating those things, and they're beginning to do better. But we've got to remember to remain vigilant with masks. Our cases are actually up. We found out today from the health department, and mask use is down. So I would just encourage everyone that it's not over yet, but if we follow the guidelines and the regulations, and we can still beat this.
Thank you, Cindy. So Jeff was touching on White Sulphur Springs. So let's talk about White Sulphur Springs and Ronceverte. They both have exciting developments underway. What are some of the things you can do to bring our communities together to provide more resources for their development?
I can go first on this.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. I've spoken with White Sulphur Springs Mayor Bruce Bowling, who has unveiled to me some plans that he has for a potential lake in White Sulphur Springs, up Big Draft Road near the White Sulphur Springs water plant near Hope Village. That could be an exciting project, not only for White Sulphur Springs, but our entire district of Greenbrier, Monroe, and Summers County, to be able to draw people in. White Sulphur Springs has really received such a revitalization here recently. Through obviously I mentioned Senate Bill 500 a little bit ago, where White Sulphur Springs is now able to spend that $1 million in money that they got basically from selling the airport to the Greenbrier back in 1985. And you're seeing the benefits of that and the investments that are taking place here in White Sulphur Springs. Also, downtown Ronceverte is really picked up well recently. I know that Tri-County Produce has a great location downtown, and that brings a lot of people into Ronceverte. And I know there's some other businesses down there on that block that are trying to do things and make it a more destination place.
Thank you, Jeff. Cindy, do you want me to repeat the question, or you got it?
I think I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Just to touch on what Jeff's already mentioned about Ronceverte and White Sulphur, just to expand a little bit, I think that those communities are doing exactly what we need our communities to do. They're coming together within their community, and they're putting forth the efforts. White Sulphur Springs, after the flood, they really came together as a community and under their mayor, and have been working, and we've been seeing that place grow, as I have a business that's located on Main Street in White Sulphur Springs, and we have seen it flourish, and it's absolutely beautiful what's happened there. We're seeing now, similar things happening in Ronceverte with the Friends of Ronceverte group that's working on cleanup and neighborhood beautification, and becoming involved with what's happening there at City Council. They've got several new members, and I think that's a good place to start is making it really local and trying to come together as communities. And I know legislatively, especially when it comes to the budget, anything that we see as an opportunity that we can bring to our communities, we're certainly going to do our best to steer that here, and always supportive of seeing not only the Western End, but these other communities of White Sulphur and Ronceverte return to the thriving state that they used to have.
Thank you, Cindy. Gentlemen, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, that's fine. Love both of those communities. And I can tell you, I can remember being a little boy in Ronceverte, and when it was booming, going and standing in line amongst several thousand people waiting to get my Christmas stocking at Christmas time. The island park full of people, just events and activities. And you know what? I am confident that with the right leadership in Charleston, those days can return to my hometown. And one way to do it is get off the backs of our business people. I haven't heard, and I appreciate Cindy's a small business owner. I have not heard Cindy ever say anything positive about big corporations. Guys, corporations are employers too. I'm a small business. I can't afford any employees, but I'm a corporation. We got to stop bad-mouthing corporations. We need to incentivize them to come here. We want them to come. We don't want to scare them away with higher taxes and all this. You got to pay your fair share and stuff. Guess what? We want them to thrive. We want them to expand, and we want them to hire our unemployed. When our kids graduate high school, when they see that there's hope and there's actually places they can go to work and make a decent salary instead of having to go to Tennessee or North Carolina, this is when Ronceverte and White Sulphur Springs wins.
Mr. Bruce, your turn.
Yes, I think we got to first thank President Trump, because both those communities identify as opportunity zones, which leads to some economic development help if we can put the plans together and get the grant writers in there to do the writing. And that's been the difficult in Ronceverte. Their grant writer doesn't do it anymore, and they're hunting for a grant writer. So we need to help to get grant writers in for these organizations or the communities so they can get the monies that are available. Secondly, we got to maintain a workforce there. And to maintain that workforce, we can't increase minimum wage to $12. We have to keep minimum wage competitive. Taking minimum wage to $12 would shut those businesses down. And that's a platform that we heard from. And that's just, none of our neighboring states have that type of minimum wage. Matter of fact, we're second against Ohio, has I think a 15-cent higher, or I'm sorry, Maryland has a higher minimum wage than we do, but all other states are below us. So to even suggest that we want to increase our minimum wage at this time would just put a damper on any growth. So I think the expansion, I am so excited about White Sulphur Springs. I represent some of the people, developers are coming in there, and they have a bright picture, and we got to get on board with that. And I'll help in every way when I'm elected.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Okay, and we'll say on this side, many parents are struggling with being their kids' teachers 20 plus hours a week, as well as trying to work their jobs or run a business. What ideas do you have to return to school safely and full time? Mr. Bruce or Mr. Longacre, would you like to take that? I can repeat the question if you'd like.
Go ahead. I thought it was their turn, but it's our
turn.
Oh,
is it? I'm sorry. Are we back to?
No, that's fine. I'm ready, but just repeat.
Okay. I'm sorry if I'm not keeping track, but I want it to be as fair as possible.
Yeah.
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, go ahead and repeat it.
Many parents are struggling with being their kids' teachers 20 plus hours a week, as well as trying to work their jobs or run their own businesses. What ideas do you have to return to school safely and full time?
Well, I think we can see that I know a lot of parents. Our church has a lot of kids in it, and I know the parents well, and it is taxing. There's no question about it. But I think it's time to seriously open these schools back up more carefully. I think, first of all, you understand that younger children don't have the risk factor that older children and older adults do. So I think with safety procedures, taking temperatures and wearing masks and doing a little bit better social distancing, we could open the schools up. We can open up better than what they are today. And I think it's time to do that.
Thank you.
Well, I am an educator, by the way, as is Jeff, and I respect him for that. I think Cindy at one time was a public school teacher as well. It is a responsibility I do not take lightly. I love the opportunity to be in my classroom with my students. Today, on a day when James Monroe High School was supposed to have only half the population there, one of my classes did not have an empty seat. Okay, same thing as Monday. My classes are full. Well, that particular class. So look, just like Barry said, if we start paying attention to the science and not the heads in the sand fear tactics, I think we can probably get back to school. There's a charter school out there. Of course, public school teachers don't like to hear me say this. There's a school called the Mountaineer Challenge Academy, which public school teachers love when they have students they can't control. They're like, they need to get to the Mountaineer Challenge Academy. It's a great thing. Just don't say it's a charter school out loud, because they don't like that. But the charter schools are open. The Mountaineer Challenge Academy, they're working. These kids are getting educated. The public school system deserves it. These kids deserve it. Let them get back to school.
Thank you. All right, Cindy and Jeff, do you want me to repeat the question?
Please.
Many parents are struggling with being their kids' teachers 20+ hours a week, as well as trying to work their jobs or run a business. What ideas do you have to return to school safely and full time?
I think once our transmission rates start to get lower, I think we will be able to get back. I mean, hopefully, I don't think it's going to happen before the end of the 9 weeks, but maybe, hopefully, by January, in the time the semester break, if we can get a vaccine, I think that will speed things along. Being a public school teacher myself at Eastern Greenbrier Middle School, basically we have 3 separate groups. We have an A-Day group that comes on Monday and Thursday. We have a B-Day group that comes on Tuesday and Friday, and then we have a remote group. And, honestly, the biggest obstacle that we have from a teacher standpoint is the technology issues that we have. We have, students who basically have a Chromebook for the first time and have not, really been trained on how to use those as well. We also have broadband issues. We've discussed that here a little bit ago. We have broadband issues where, these students are not able to get on successfully from their home. So, in terms of getting back to school, I think I can speak for every teacher here in the county. We want to get back. We want to get back to a normal, permanent, normal schedule we've had in the past. This has just been for us, and we're all trying to navigate it together, but it's taken some time. So just hopefully soon we can get back safely.
Thank you, Jeff. Cindy, do you want me to repeat it, or you got it?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
I think we just have to remember that we have to follow the science on this. We've got to make sure that our transmission rate is down and stays down. And today we know that the cases are up. I think that Greenbrier County Schools has had one of the best plans for re-entry in the state. I think they're taking it cautiously, but also, the schools are open. Most kids are going, especially at the elementary level. And believe me, I have a son who is on full remote learning, and I would like to have him back in the classroom 7 hours a day instead of home with mom. But it is what it is. He has asthma, and it's just not safe for him. And I think it's a difficult time. It's historically a difficult time in this country and in this state. And I think that, we're just trying to do the best we can as parents. And I think that our school system and our teachers are certainly doing the same. And we're all anxious for a return to normalcy. And we can't wait to see that happen.
Okay, thank you. As you all know, we are up against the gubernatorial debate that is going to be broadcast live here on News Talk Radio here shortly. So at this time, even though we weren't able to finish all of our questions, we will open this up for our closing remarks. We will begin with the Democrats. So Cindy, do you want to go first? 2 minutes, yes, 2 minutes.
So nationally, West Virginia ranks 44th in the overall well-being of our children. We're 37th in health, and we're 48th economically. We have almost 90,000 West Virginia children living in poverty, and 2.8% of our children are considered homeless. We've got to do better for our kids. As a legislator, it is my priority to make informed policy decisions that better the lives of children in West Virginia. A child living in poverty experiences lifelong consequences. And if we look at those issues and address them with interventions and investments now, we can and will change our future. I believe in putting our children first. That's why I was lead sponsor of a bill to train teachers to recognize and address childhood trauma in West Virginia schools. It's why I supported a bill to continue the investigation of complaints made within our precarious foster care system. It's why I sponsored a bill to improve technical education at the middle school level. By putting West Virginia children first, we are creating a greater path to better opportunity for every citizen and every sector in our state. There is no doubt that West Virginia families are suffering. Today, I look around and see the same lack of opportunities for my son as I saw 30 years ago. And I'm adamant that the next generation of West Virginians should be able to find hope and prosperity at home. For 10 years, I was a public school teacher, and I know firsthand the work our teachers do to make the differences for our children in this state. My husband and I have run multiple small businesses for 20 plus years, and we've spent 30 years fighting to stay in West Virginia. It shouldn't be that hard. It's time to make it easier for working families to thrive in West Virginia. And now more than ever, you need strong candidates who will stand up for you, who will be a voice for their constituents, who will stand up for working people, small businesses, and children. I'm Cindy Lavender Bow, and I would like to continue my work in Charleston on behalf of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Mr. Campbell?
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you to the Chamber for the opportunity to be here this evening and for everyone who tuned in. When I took office in 2017, I did so knowing the honor and privilege it is to serve this district where I've lived my entire life, born and raised. Serving you in the House of Delegates has always been a dream for me that goes all the way back to Mr. Steve O'Neill's White Sulphur Junior High School, West Virginia history class. The men and women who've served us in the state legislature over the years in our district have left big shoes to fill, and this is a duty that I take very seriously. Every issue that comes before me in Charleston comes down to a simple standard. Is it good for the district? Is it good for the state? Does it help or hurt people? Throughout my 3 years in the House, I've built relationships across the aisle and earned a reputation for bipartisanship. I'm proud of my 100% voting record and being transparent to the people of the 42nd District. Every week, I report back to my constituents with newspaper and online columns throughout the legislative sessions, outlining the issues before us and explaining why I voted yes or no. I'm proud to have endorsements and support from education, like the West Virginia Education Association, including chapters of Greenbrier County and Monroe County, the American Federation of Teachers, the West Virginia School Service Personnel, from police, including the West Virginia Sheriff's Association, the West Virginia Deputy Sheriff's Association, and support from the Fraternal Order of Police. I've got support from labor, the AFL-CIO, Workers United Local 863, the West Virginia Building and Construction Trades, the painters, electrical workers, Communication Workers of America, and the operating engineers. From coal, I've got not only support from the United Mine Workers, but also the Metallurgical Coal Producers Association. My endorsements aren't based on questionnaires. I have them because of my 3-year voting record. I would like to thank the other candidates for running clean, positive campaigns. There could be any combination of the three of us elected to serve the 42nd district. We have a responsibility to work together for the people, for all those who voted for us and those who didn't. I'm Jeff Campbell. I'm running on my name and my record serving Greenbrier, Monroe, and Summers counties, and I'm asking for your vote to continue to be your voice in Charleston. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Bruce, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks again to the Chamber for hosting this event and for Radio Greenbrier for broadcasting it. I'm proud to currently have the following endorsements: West Virginia Coal Association, Business and Industry Council, Chamber of Commerce, Farm Bureau, Nurses Association, Law Pack, Family Policy Council, Home Builders Association, Auto Dealers, Gas and Oil Pack, Contractors Association, and today Senator Shelley Moore Capito endorsed me. I am most proud of my endorsements from West Virginia. I am most proud of my endorsements from West Virginians for Life and the highest grades possible for the NRA, from the NRA and the Citizens Defense League. We are beyond blessed to live in this district, but the left wants to radicalize this nation and our state. The two current delegates in our district are not pro-life and have not been there for gun owners, and they are not going to take a stand for President Trump. It is too much of a risk for our region to allow failed Democratic leadership to continue. We need conservative leaders in the legislature who will defend constitutional rights, our way of life. Don't let radicalism sneak into the Greenbrier Valley. I humbly ask for your vote during early voting and on November 3rd. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Mr. Longenacre, I hope I said that finally the correct way after this whole
Perfect.
evening. Oh
I
my
love
God.
it.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
No, you did well. Thank you very much. I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this. And I most of all want to thank all the listeners for actually tuning in. You're showing us that you actually care about your community and the political process. So thank you. And I hope that if you were on the fence, tonight with regard to how you were going to vote, I do hope that this debate helped you to make up your mind. You heard which candidates support the continued success of the Trump administration. You heard which candidates would or would not reject the Democrat Party's national agenda of enabling socialist hate groups and their illegal rioting, their defunding of law enforcement, their erasing of history, and their attacking of West Virginia corporations with higher taxation. To summarize, a vote for Todd Longenacre is a vote to defend your Bill of Rights. It's a vote for incentivizing businesses to come to our community, not to run away. It's a vote for wrestling back control of education standards from the feds and then putting it back home with our parents and our good teachers in this area. Okay, a vote for Longenacre is a vote for lower taxation. It's a vote for a smaller, less intrusive government in your life. It's a vote for our right to keep and bear arms. It's a vote for the rule of law and our first responders. It's a vote for the freedom of worship and the freedom to not be persecuted by statists wearing ties. Okay, a vote for Longenacre, more importantly, is a vote for the preciousness of life. Life in the womb, disabled folks and elderly folks, life is precious and we will protect it with our own life if necessary. So finally, you've heard tonight, I don't have time to do all my endorsements, but I am endorsed by Shelley Moore Capito. I have the West Virginia Life Endorsement Citizens Defense League. I have the highest rating you can get from the NRA, but most importantly, I Kevlar off and the camouflage off. I want to put a tie on and be your voice because that oath of office to defend your rights still surges through my veins and I will not compromise on it. Vote for Longenacre in November.
Thank you. I would like to thank our candidates for joining us tonight and for those that have tuned in through Radio Greenbrier and on YouTube tonight. I am Ashley Vickers. I'm the Executive Director for the Greater Greenbrier Chamber of Commerce. And just once again, the Chamber is a non-political organization. We don't support, promote, or endorse any candidates or legislation. So we're merely here just to educate the community on the issues and the folks that are running to represent them. So we will be back here tomorrow evening for the last of our debates, for the Senate debates at 6. We hope to see you here. Once again, thank you guys for being here tonight. I appreciate your time, and good luck to all of y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Thank you
discussion.
much.
Good
You're
discussion,
welcome.
guys. Thank you.
Good to talk to everybody. Thank you.